Hello everyone, Professor Philip Travis, and this week in world history we will be examining India and China, and we have multiple segments from our textbook to read, so make sure you take a look at the readings and assignments page for those details. This week, our graded assignment this week is just a discussion forum. We had, of course, an exam last week. Don't forget, well, I should actually clarify that. We do have our paper due this week. Of course, the paper prompt and everything has been available for quite some time, so it has been possible for us to have submitted earlier. The due date will be this week, and I'm going to go ahead and extend that due date to the Sunday. I know I had placed it a little bit earlier, and I will go ahead and give us the full week on this. So you do have the paper due this week. Please see the prompt. Please let me know if you have any questions on this. And I look forward to grading your papers. Aside from the paper, which hopefully everyone's been working a little bit on, we have a discussion forum this week. And the discussion forum is a little bit different. The requirements this week, because we're dealing with both India and China, I'm asking us to make 2 posts and 1 reply. Please note that when I say 2 posts, I don't mean 1 post with 2 different subject headings. I mean 2 separate posts. And again, over 2 separate days of activity on that. So you could make your first post on Thursday, second post Friday, reply to a classmate Friday, and you would fulfill that. Or you could do Wednesday and Thursday, any 2 days. And you don't have to do both posts by Thursday. I just want to see that you're starting activity in the discussion forum by Thursday. So our subject for this week is examining ancient India and China. And when we think about the emergence, first of all, of civilization, world civilizations, there's really 4 sort of civilizations that are typically referenced as earmarking, if you will, the emergence of civilization in the world. Of course, we've examined a couple of these already. Mesopotamian civilization, particularly with Sumer, ancient Egypt, Egyptian civilization. But then, of course, we have the civilizations in China, the Yellow River civilization particularly, and also the Indus River civilization in what is today Pakistan, and also, broadly speaking, India, the Indian subcontinent. And this here is one of the most famous archaeological sites in the world, and certainly of the Indus River civilization. This is the site of Mohenjo-Daro. And Mohenjo-Daro is, along with Harappa, one of the sort of advanced civilizations that's been discovered by archaeologists in the Indus River Valley region on the Indian subcontinent. And this was, again, a contemporary, like the Yellow River civilization, like Sumer, like Egypt. This was a contemporary of these civilizations. And Mohenjo-Daro, Harappa, it's usually called Harappan civilization. This is an ancient civilization that would have predated the development of Hinduism in India. It's believed that Hinduism emerged in the Indian subcontinent as a result of Indo-European migrations. Historians are not entirely certain what resulted in the collapse of the Indus River civilization, but around the time of the collapse of this civilization would have been associated with the migration of Indo-Europeans, who would have brought different ideas that ultimately led to the development of Hinduism into the Indian subcontinent. So this is Mohenjo-Daro from the Indus River civilization, and we'll talk about this in a moment. So the other civilization, and I'll go ahead and get right to this. So the other civilization, of course, was the Yellow River civilization. Now, the earliest civilization in China, Shang, it was known as the Shang dynasty, was for a long period of time believed to have been a myth, and only relatively recently has archaeological evidence come to reveal that this was in fact an actual civilization. And of course, Chinese writing has been discovered in association with the earliest civilizations, a writing particularly associated with what are known as oracle bones, which are archaeological sort of finds that demonstrate the development of an early written Chinese script. Of course, the Indus River civilization, too, it should be noted, had a written script. Archaeologists and historians have been unable to decipher the Indus River written script, largely because the Indus River itself, its course, its banks, have changed so much over time that an overwhelming amount of the artifacts that would have contained that written script have become submerged under the water table, and we don't have access to enough of this written script to be able to decipher it. Okay, let's get right to the factoid here. We've got a paper due this week, of course. We've got a discussion forum this week. We have a really good amount of reading this week. I think you'll find it very interesting. So let's get right to the factoid. The factoid is this. What you're looking at here is a depiction of an ancient depiction. I believe this is from the Han Dynasty, but this is of Confucius. Now, Confucius would have lived many, many years after the emergence of the Shang Dynasty, many, many years after the emergence of the first agricultural settlements in the Yellow River. He would have, broadly speaking, Confucius, which, by the way, Confucius was not a name that Confucius himself would have ever heard. Confucius would have been known probably as Kung Fu Sa, but Confucius was a Portuguese name that was given, obviously, during the time of European colonialism and imperialism. But Confucius would have been, broadly speaking, a contemporary of some of the world's other great philosophical minds, like Plato and Aristotle, broadly speaking, in the period that you would associate with being a period of classical Greece, for example, would have also been similar to the time period, at least, of Confucius. Well, the philosophy of Confucius is, of course, one of the most significant philosophical schools in world history. And this is the factoid. So we emphasize, of course, we're looking at ancient Greece, and certainly with Rome, we were looking at representative society. And one of the things we were thinking about was what representative societies, what governments need to be healthy, strong, and to withstand the challenge from those who might undermine, in the case of Rome and Greece, a representative society, a limited representative society. Now, in China, of course, you did not have a representative governance system the way you would have, of course, with the Roman Republic, certainly, or the ancient Athenian democracy. However, there was a great deal of energy put into what should be done in Chinese society to create a healthy state. And Confucius was one of the foremost figures. Confucius developed his writing during a period generally known as the period of warring states. And the period of warring states produced a number of different philosophies to organizing and thinking about how government should be done in the world. And this gave rise, by the way, to the Taoists. Many of you might know about the Taoist tradition, Confucianism, and, of course, legalism. And legalism, which was associated with the first emperor in the Qin dynasty, legalism became associated with sort of really, really extreme enforcement of laws as a way of using effectively the threat of extreme punishment to prevent criminal behavior. Confucius's perspective on this, and by the way, the legalists would have killed a person for possessing the works of Confucius. And some of the original works of Confucius only survived because people hid them under planks in their floors and things like this, and they weren't found. And had they been found when the Qin dynasty was dominating in the last century before the Common Era, they would have been persecuted significantly. Confucius's philosophy was very different. Confucius said that effectively the virtue of the state is inherently linked to the virtue of the leader. And so Confucius believed that within society, both within the family and within lower levels of government, all the way up to the emperor, that that the key to having a healthy and happy society was to have virtue on the part of leaders, and of course, on the part of everyone, of course. But he believed fundamentally that that the leader, if the leader was virtuous, then those following the leader would likewise be virtuous. And similarly, if the leader was not virtuous, then you would witness a rise of unethical, non-virtuous behavior in society. And so Confucius, the factoid, Confucius believed, much in the way, of course, we saw with the Greeks and their vigilance to reinforce their democracy against tyranny. In the case of ancient China, we see Confucius, the mind behind really his own approach to understanding how society could be improved and protected from tyranny and so forth, was through virtue, and he believed training leaders to be virtuous would result in virtue within society. So for Confucius, the virtue of the leader was absolutely integral to the health and virtue of society. So post that factoid in the discussion forum for this week, the extra credit discussion forum, and maybe earn your 2 points this week, because this is a little long. And good luck on the paper. Please let me know if you have any questions. Let's have a great week.